paid to party.
Right.
Wouldn't that be great? Like the Kardashians. The Kardashians.
Yeah, there are people that did that. By the way, Gretchen Wilson was playing at John Rich's house, which is, it's like a stadium. And
were you there?
You were there?
Yes, I was there because he
When?
was rolling out whiskey. He's got his brand new whiskey. Remember from a couple of weeks ago in Nashville?
Yeah.
Right.
So Gretchen Wilson came out. I mean, this most stunning voice you've ever heard.
She's fantastic. That's why we started the show with
Right.
her.
It was a good move.
You were hanging out at his house.
I know, it was a big mistake. I just happened to be there, and it was his birthday, and he said, come on over, and he just happens to have a Coliseum for a home.
Really?
It's
There you
fantastic.
go. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy Wednesday. So let's get started with the Fox News alert and a bombshell exclusive. This information has been embargoed until 6 o'clock this morning, and now we can tell you that Fox News has obtained thousands of brand new anti-Trump text messages between the lovebirds, pictured right there, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page.
Those new messages now raising even more questions about what the FBI knew about the Clinton investigation and when they knew it.
And guess what there's a reference to in this exchange? President Barack Obama. Griff Jenkins live in Washington breaking it down. Griff, get us started.
Good morning, guys. It's shocking. It raises serious questions, and it reflects a deep disdain for not only the president, but for Republican voters. Let's get right to it. In one exchange, Strzok ridicules Virginia voters who voted against his boss, Andy McCabe's wife, Jill, in her bid for a state Senate seat that she lost, writing, quote, disappointing, but look at the district map. Loudoun is being gentrified, but is still largely ignorant hillbillies. Good for her for running, but curious if she's energized or never again. These texts are being released by Senator Ron Johnson in the Homeland Security Committee, along with a report entitled The Clinton Email Scandal and the FBI's Investigation of It. And the messages shed some light on the timing of the discovery of hundreds of thousands of emails found on Anthony Weiner's laptop. On September 28th, 2016, Strzok writes, got called up to Andy's earlier. Hundreds of thousands of emails turned over by Weiner's attorney to Southern District of New York. Includes a ton of material from spouse Uma Abedin, sending team up tomorrow to review. This will never end. Now, investigators tell Fox News this raises serious questions of timing because it wasn't until a full month later, on October 28th, that FBI Director James Comey informs Congress that he is reopening the Clinton investigation, begging the question of why it took so long, an entire month, for Comey's investigative team to inform him of this discovery. And on Election Day, Page writes, OMG, this is effing terrifying. Strzok replies, OMG, I am so depressed. A few days later, November 13th, Page writes, I bought all the president's men, figure I need to brush up on Watergate. The next day, she writes, God, being here makes me angry. Lots of highfalutin national security talk. Meanwhile, we have our task ahead of us. Page's meaning there quite unclear, as is her last message. Look at this, June 23rd, 2017. Please don't ever text me again. So, guys, a lot breaking on this. Hat tip to Jay Gibson, our producer. This is really starting to unfold, and it continues to paint the picture that Strzok and Page and the feelings they had for the president.
The only thing I could say, Griff, is this is just a wow moment, and more could be coming after 9 a.m. today.
All right.
Thanks.
Griff, thank you very much. This is all prepared. Senator Ron Johnson, Homeland Security Committee, has this paper out. It's called The Clinton Email Scandal and the FBI Investigation into It.
Well titled.
Yeah, no kidding. What's curious, though, is one of the email passages from September the 2nd, 2016. And apparently the FBI was preparing Director Comey for something because they were preparing talking points. And the text message simply reads, POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. Which brings up the question, are they talking about the President of the United States? Are they talking about Barack Obama? Does that mean he was involved in whatever they were doing? That's a bombshell.
Well, you could say, I mean, that's very diplomatic of you to say, were they talking about it? But we only have one president at a time.
Well, we don't know that it was specifically about them. Who knows?
You could be talking about Washington or John Adams.
No, but sometimes.
Or president of a company, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
We just don't know. We need to see more of the email, and there are hundreds of thousands.
And the ones that Griff just read, we have our task ahead of us, meaning we got a lot of work to do.
But what
to make sure our person gets in, it sounds very suspicious.
I don't know what they're talking about in September specifically, but how interesting that it was Anthony Weiner's lawyer who told the New York FBI office, I have some more emails on my soon-to-be convicted client. And some of them ended up being from Huma Abedin. When will this ever end? Peter Strzok comes out in. And I think that's very significant because you have this 3-week gap between when James Comey, all 6'9" of him, comes out and says, investigation's open again, game on. And in 5 days, we look through it. Nothing there. And Hillary Clinton swears to this day that's the reason why she lost. The question is, did Andy McCabe in that period call up James Comey and say, you're my boss, I got some news for you? Or did Andy McCabe say to himself, wait a second, let me figure out a way going here, then call James Comey? Because one way or another, either James Comey was left in the dark by his subordinates, which shows he can't run an organization, or he was not telling the truth a myriad of times when he said, this just came across my desk, now I got to go tell the public.
Well, you know, it is curious. Keep in mind, it was a couple of weeks ago that Andy McCabe was relieved of his duties. He was removed from his office. A lot of people said, does this have to do with the Russia thing? What's it about? That was actually regarding Michael Horowitz, who's the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, looking into the Hillary Clinton email scandal. So clearly, it's all tied. He's also the reason Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were removed from the case.
Yep, he's still getting paid through March when he retires.
But this is the key. What you just brought up, Ainsley, this is what we got to focus on until more text messages come out. And remember, they found the 5 months of text messages, and Horowitz might be the most valuable player in this entire 2-year mess. Remember, last January, he came out and says, I'm going to be looking into this. And now he just, along the way, he's just doing this thing called finding the facts, and his final report is supposed to be out in April. But, God, being here makes me angry. Lots of highfalutin national security talk. This is after the election. Donald Trump won. Meanwhile, we have our, in caps, task ahead of us, and we know what Goody could be referring to. The fact is they do have a plan, just like you have an insurance policy if you die before you're 40.
All right, another big story this morning is that memo, the Democratic memo. Will it be released this week? The White House is saying it looks like the president will be returning it back to the committee after he has gone through it. You have some Republicans that are saying they're upset because they're saying the Democrats, they put all this sensitive information in this memo just so the president and the FBI have no choice but to make all these redactions so it can look like the president doesn't want you to know information about him that makes him look bad. And
as you deliberate, there's Adam Schiff coming out showing a reason for concern. I just hope the president doesn't redact anything, almost saying, I put stuff in there, you have to redact it.
When you set a trap, as they apparently have, that's what you would say. Keep in mind, it was just a week ago, Adam Schiff said, hey, Devin Nunes is altering that document that we voted on. Actually, he voted against releasing it, but now they're for complete transparency. Trey Gaudio's on with Martha for an hour last night, and he is very, skeptical of why there's so many secrets in this thing that they want out. Listen.
The Democrats are politically smart enough to put things in the memo that require either the Bureau or the Department of Justice to say it needs to be redacted. Therefore, it creates this belief that there's something being hidden from the American people. And keep in mind, this is the same crowd that voted not to release our memo and voted not to gain a lot of this information over the last 12 months. But unfortunately, we're in an environment where you would include material that you know has to be redacted, and you know responsible people are going to redact it just so that question will be asked.
Because the FBI evidently is going to get a look at it, too. The Department of Justice will get a look at it, too. And the president hasn't gone through it yet. John Kelly says there's a lot in it. And he got briefed by Rod Rosenstein yesterday about what you can expect in this 10-page memo to kind of give the highlights of it. So it's on the president's desk. In that, by the way, is a personal attack on, we believe, Devin Nunes. Is it really necessary to do that? We'll see.
Well, it just goes to show you the political nature of it. Meanwhile, speaking of Mr. Schiff, it turns out, and this is very embarrassing for him, a year ago, he got on the horn, got on the phone with people. He believed that they were, the people speaking to him were from the Ukraine. And they had information about Donald Trump, who was, it was very inappropriate what they described, involved with a reality star. Turns out these were two comics from Russia pranking him, but Mr. Schiff fell for it. Listen.
She got compromising materials on Trump after their short relations.
Okay. And what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
Okay. And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will be back in touch with you through our staff to make arrangements to obtain these materials for our committee and for the FBI, and I appreciate you reaching out to us.
Taking notes. A staffer followed up, I think, the next day and the next day after that to try to set up a time to get these pictures. Let me see. Russian operatives, Ukrainian operatives claiming to have information on a political opponent, and you're going to meet with them and you're going to talk with them to find out what they had? You cannot tell me that Adam Schiff wasn't thinking he's got something very important right there.
It's just bizarre to me to think that they go on to talk about how Putin's goddaughter got these pictures, and that's how
she's a bad journalist.
That's how, yeah, she's a journalist, and that's how he got the pictures. It just seems. Do you really think that Putin would care about seeing pictures?
Adam Schiff did.
Well,
I know.
And here's the irony. Keep in mind, the Democrats have melted down that Don Trump Jr. Set out to meet with a Russian lawyer who supposedly had dirt on Hillary Clinton. Now here is Adam Schiff trying to get dirt on Donald Trump. As it turns out, it was just a joke. Don Trump Jr. himself tweeted, "The irony and hypocrisy of this can't be understated. Hashtag full of Schiff."
Wow, that is Don Jr. So what I'm trying to say is, you look at both these situations. Don Jr. gets in there, and all of a sudden they change the tactic, and they go, "Listen, we want the Maginski Act overturned." And
when the lawyer came to Trump Tower.
When the lawyer came to Trump Tower. But at the very least, you're a businessman. Your dad's in the middle of an election. You've never even been in politics before. There's some built-in legitimate excuses. Adam Schiff is as experienced as anyone on Capitol Hill, and he is the ranking member on the Intelligence Committee, and he is getting on the phone personally after his staff has screened him, and then he sets up his chief of staff, who, according to Tucker last night's People, makes over $100,000 a year to try to set up a rendezvous to get these photos of President Trump.
What should he have done differently? Just not taken the call? Let one of his staffers really investigate this?
Is always looking for dirt on everybody else. The interesting thing about this, it actually happened a year ago. We're just now hearing about it.
Yeah. All right. Meanwhile, there's so much going on, and if you're saying I've never heard that before, it's because it's all brand new. Straight ahead, the drunk driving illegal immigrant accused of killing an NFL player now facing federal charges. This after already being deported twice. Indiana Congressman Todd Rokita represents the district where this took place. He's doubling down on the call for immigration reform and joins us next.
And this video is crazy. A woman sitting on the roof of her car as it's sinking into the ocean. The dramatic rescue caught on camera.
They're coming. New developments this morning in the case against the drunk driving illegal accused of killing a former NFL player hours before the Super Bowl on Sunday. The Department of Justice now bringing federal charges against that man, Manuel Zavala, as Indianapolis officials confirm he'd been deported twice, returning to the United States under a fake name. Our next guest represents that district, and last year he also pushed a bill to jail lawmakers who protect illegals in sanctuary cities. Republican Congressman Todd Rokita joins us right now live from our nation's capital. Todd, good morning to you.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me back on.
This was preventable, wasn't it?
Like President Trump said, this was a completely preventable tragedy. You know, if we had the wall, which is a tool for enforcing our immigration law, something that every other country on the face of this earth does, this would not have happened. Two people would still be alive. That's the bottom line. That's what makes this, Steve, not a drunk driving case, but an immigration case, a tragedy.
In December, Congressman, you introduced the SLAPP Act. Yeah. SLAPP stands for Stopping Lawless Actions of Politicians Act.
Yes,
what
sir.
would that have done?
Well, and we're still working on it. We're gaining co-sponsors by the minute. I encourage your viewers to call their representative to get on the SLAPP Act. But what it does is it says if you're a local elected official and you're thumbing your nose at what is valid federal immigration law, you yourself are a felon and you ought to be thrown in jail. And I think it ought to be part of the plan to help clean up and end dangerous sanctuary cities.
The President of the United States yesterday tweeted this: so disgraceful that a person illegally in our country killed at Colts linebacker Edward Jackson. This is just one of the many such preventable tragedies. We must get the Dems to get tough on the border and with illegal immigration fast. Clearly, the president wants his 4 pillars. The Democrats want DACA, and it doesn't sound like they want to go as far as the president. Yesterday, apparently joked, you know what, maybe we need a shutdown over this then.
Well, I think it was tongue-in-cheek for sure,
think so too.
But the issue is serious, and the president is exactly right. You know, we have to have, if we're going to be a sovereign nation, Steve, we have got to have a border. We have got to be able to enforce who comes in and out of our country. The guy who murdered these 2 innocent people shouldn't have been in our country. Maybe others should be, but we ought to make that decision, not them.
He is from the great state of Indiana. Todd Rokita, thank you very much for joining us live.
Thank you.
You bet. What do you think about that? Please email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, it's a question many of you are asking this morning. If I already had the flu, can I get it a second time? Well, Dr. Mark Siegel here with an unusual answer and tips to avoid getting sick in the first place or the second place. Plus, he served in our country in the military. Now this Army Sergeant is representing America in the Olympics. You're going to hear from him straight ahead. You're watching Fox and Friends live from New York City.
Good morning. Hope you're having a good day so far. Back with some quick headlines. Today, the Senate will consider a proposal to avoid another government shutdown. The House passing a stopgap bill that would extend funding until March 22nd. But as Congress tries to work through gridlock, President Trump speaking out on the importance of an immigration deal.
If we don't change it, let's have a shutdown. We'll do a shutdown, and it's worth it for our country. I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this stuff taken care of.
Lawmakers have until tomorrow at midnight. Heartbreaking news to report this morning. An American hero and father serving overseas found dead at a train station in Germany near a U.S. military training camp. First Sergeant Nicholas Amsbury, you're seeing him right there, was on a 9-month deployment when he passed away at just 34 years old. The 15-year veteran's death still under investigation. First Sergeant Amsbury leaves behind a 9-year-old daughter. Let's look at your headlines. Ainsley.
Thank you, Jillian. The flu season is already the worst in almost a decade, and it's far from over. And this morning, a question many of you are asking, if I already had the flu once, can I get it again this season? Here to answer that is Fox News Medical A-Team's Dr. Mark Siegel. He's also the author of Swine Flu, the New Pandemic. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Siegel.
Hi, Ainsley. Good to see you.
Hi. So if you have had the flu this season, you can get it again?
Yes, you can get it again. But the first question is, did you really have it? The last week or so, everybody that's coming in thinks they had the flu in my office. I got a cough, doc. I have the flu. I'm congested. I have the flu. You don't have the flu. You probably have bronchitis. You probably have a cold or respiratory infection. Now, if you're really fatigued and if you have muscle aches and you have to lie down and you got a high fever and you have sniffles, that's probably the flu. I can tell. Ask your physician. Make sure a physician says to you, you have the flu, or get tested for the flu. That's how you know you have the flu. And then you can definitely get it a second time, Ainsley, because the strain that's been causing all the problems this year is starting to diminish somewhat. We're getting a second strain called H1N1 that's starting to come up more, and that's another strain. So if you had one strain, you could get another strain.
So if you get the flu shot, does that only cover one strain, or are there several strains in that shot?
That's really a great question. That flu shot covers 3 or 4 strains. And the good news is it does a heck of a lot better at the other 3 strains than the one we've been talking about. So if you get the flu now or later in this season, much more likely that you're going to get a milder case because of that flu shot.
If you feel like you're getting the flu, do you stay home, or if it's just the beginnings of the flu, is it okay to go to work?
Absolutely not. That's when you spread the flu.
Okay.
Most of the flu is spread when you're not even sick yet, or when you're just starting to get sick, when you're sniffling, when you're touching everything. You touch your computer, someone else touches it, they get the flu. That's why we recommend so much hand washing and wearing masks and doing really good hygiene.
I was flying this weekend, and so many people had the masks on. I was at dinner the other night with a friend. Everyone's bringing out their, antibacterial creams. We're all terrified we're going to get the flu.
Right, but that's good, because that'll keep you from actually getting it. One thing I want to really make a point of saying is that if you have the flu, I say stay home for days afterwards. The Centers for Disease Control says as soon as your fever is gone, you can go back to school or go back to work. I say take the week if you can, because you still can spread the flu even when you're feeling better.
My friends that have had the flu said they had to take a week. I mean, they were they said they couldn't even get out of bed. They were so weak.
And that's why we're seeing $9 billion of money lost in job productivity right now because of the flu.
Really?
It's not talked about enough. And luckily, research is ongoing now, finally, on a universal flu vaccine that looks very promising. If we get that, I say take the current flu vaccine. I think it helps you. It's about 30% effective. It helps decrease spread. It decreases severity. But in a few years from now, we get a universal flu vaccine. We're not going to be here talking about this.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Siegel. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Still ahead, one reporter having a meltdown over President Trump's comments about illegals.
Every immigrant in this country isn't a killer and a thug and a thief, and he's kind of equated all immigrants, put them in that status.
Radio talk show host Wayne Dupree is here to react to that coming up next. And the crazy video, a woman sitting on the roof of her car as it's sinking in the ocean. Thank goodness there were rescue crews there. We're going to play you that dramatic video. But first, we want to wish a happy birthday to our friend and former Fox and Friends weekend host, Anna Koyman. Anna is 34 years old today. She had a little boy a few weeks ago. She's a mama now. Happy birthday, Anna.
6:32 here in New York City, and we've got a Fox News alert, a bombshell exclusive. Fox News has obtained thousands of brand new anti-Trump text messages between those lovebirds at the FBI, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Those new messages now raising more questions. What were they talking about?
On Election Day, Page writing, OMG, this is expletive, terrifying. Strzok replying, OMG, I am so depressed.
Right. They're only conducting every major investigation leading up to the election. A few days later, on November 13th, Page wrote this, quote, I bought all the President's Men, I guess the movie or the movie or the book. Figure I need to brush up on Watergate.
Page's last message, written on June 23rd, 2017, reads, please don't ever text me again. What they're talking about, we don't know.
Maybe they broke up.
Well, maybe they did, or maybe they realized people were watching.
Let's bring in Wayne Dupree, a great radio talk show host, got a fantastic podcast. Wayne, we're trying to digest this. It was embargoed till 6 a.m. One of the other things we're going to throw at you is a text message on September 2nd. POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. This is 2016. That's President Barack Obama. There's a story here, at the very least. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for allowing me to join back again. Yeah, this century's Bonnie and Clyde really have something going on with these text messages. You know, there's one thing that I have tried to stay away from, and that is the phone. I don't answer the phone in my own house, and the only reason why I don't do that is because, you know, you just don't want to get caught on some stupid stuff. This right here, these text messages from Paige and Peter, to get caught with this stuff right here and to watch them still have a job within the FBI. I mean, they still have a job. Peter is in human resources, of all places. You know, I mean, honestly, if I still had my job that I used to have a long time ago, send me to human resources. But he's in charge of human resources right now.
It's true.
Still with these text messages coming out this morning. Oh my God! I mean, he's melting. He's melting because President Trump
against
got
the future president.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell the bias of these people. They didn't want him elected. They didn't want him in office. They were trying to help Hillary Clinton. They were trying to help the Democrat Party. They got caught. I mean, I don't care if you put them in the same jail. I don't care if you put them in opposite cells. But somebody needs to go to jail, and these two need to be the poster child for that.
Okay, Wayne, my heart breaks, all of our hearts break for the parents of that linebacker, the Colts linebacker that was killed, and the Uber driver that was killed on the side of the road by this alleged illegal, twice deported illegal immigrant. Do you think we need more border security? The president's talking about the wall. What are your thoughts?
Look, ever since President Trump talked about building the wall, I've been on board. I have two daughters. They're 14 years old. I love them to death. And they're also dreamers, by the way. Legal dreamers. But when I look at, or when I saw this guy, this drunken illegal alien, you know, I was angry that to hear that he was twice deported and he was back under another name. Listen, if the people in Washington, if you don't want to do your job, then leave, roll out, or let me talk to the voter. Vote them out. If they don't want to do their job, look, you don't have a perfect politician in office, okay? You don't. So you want term limits? You vote them out, vote in somebody else that cares about this country, because the people right now that have allowed this wall to go, I mean, you know, hey, well, we're going to fund the wall, and then the wall never gets built. We got to do something about that. We got to put the wall up and then protect this country. That's what we really need.
At the very least, simultaneously, you put the money into a trust fund, you start spending it immediately, no Congress can touch it afterwards, and at the same time, at the very least, you do DACA. I don't know what that bipartisan deal was with Chris Coons and John McCain last week. They were going to study the border. We got it down. We know where it is. Yeah. Let's start protecting it.
Yeah, that was a bad deal. Meanwhile, yesterday, the President of the United States, Wayne, made it very clear that what happened to that Indianapolis player was preventable. He tweeted that out.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was also joking about how if they don't get a deal with the Democrats regarding DACA, maybe they should shut the government down. But there was an exchange. We want you to listen to this, and the folks at home as well. Listen to the chat between somebody at the White House and Brooke Baldwin over on CNN, and see if they agree with what they are saying in this passage.
Every immigrant in this country isn't a killer and a thug and a thief, and he's kind of equated all immigrants, put them in that status, when actually the crime rates in the immigrant communities are much smaller than in the larger communities.
Listen, I don't know what the president's thinking, but I do know that, you know, he keeps tweeting about, we were just telling the story about this Indianapolis Colt player, and maybe in that case, you know, but certainly you're right. People are here for all kinds of incredibly valid and patriotic reasons.
Okay, so there you've got the commentator talking about how every immigrant in the country isn't a killer, but then you've got her saying people are here for all kind of incredibly valid and patriotic reasons. I don't get that part.
Oh, I do. It's easy. CNN is trying to raise their ratings. They need illegal immigrants to watch their ratings to get their ratings back up, so that's why they're calling them patriotic. Listen, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know whether it's wacky tobacco or Latin lettuce that's in the break rooms or whatnot, but the American people right now, we want our politicians to enforce the laws. Now, I know that a whole lot of mainstream media have problems with saying illegal immigrants. They don't want to say it. They don't want to say illegal immigrants. And it's almost like they have problems with truth and illegal. They don't want to put those two together. But listen, we don't have any problem with patriotic immigrants. We don't have any problem with that. You come into this country, you go through the process, and then you stand up at the end and you say the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we know that you want to make a perfect citizen to help the United States of America. These illegal immigrants aren't doing that. They don't have any allegiance to this country. They don't care about this country, and that's why they can go out drinking and run over a rising NFL star. Americans should be angry at this right now.
Well,
I mean, totally angry at this.
David Axelrod tweets out that basically the president's exploiting his death to move his immigration plan forward.
Yeah, okay. That's what a whole lot of these mainstream media people do too. They exploit the illegal immigrants, calling them patriots. I mean, you know, they're not patriots. They are elite and
especially if they take your job.
All right.
And you know, they call them law-abiding. They call them law-abiding illegal immigrants. You can't put both of those in the same sentence.
Gotcha.
All right. Wayne Dupree joining us from Baltimore, where he's got a radio show and a podcast. Wade, thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne.
Well said. Meanwhile,
thanks.
Jillian, what's
Brian,
going on?
A lot of stuff is going on, you know. There's a lot of news that we are following. So let's go ahead and get you caught up on some of the headlines, starting with this. The death of a Border Patrol agent killed in the line of duty remains a mystery. A newly released autopsy report shows Rogelio Martinez died from blunt injuries to the head. He was also hurt in the torso, shoulder, and ribs. The cause of those injuries, though, is still unknown. Martinez and his partner found clinging to life near the southern border in November. He died the next day. His partner is okay. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information. A new disaster for Amtrak when a train breaks apart traveling at 125 miles per hour. Two train cars separating on the way to New York City from Washington, D.C. None of the 52 passengers were hurt. This follows 3 deadly Amtrak incidents in the past several weeks, including Sunday's deadly collision in South Carolina, last week's collision with a truck in Virginia, and in December, a train from Seattle to Portland derailed on an overpass. Dramatic video showing the moment a Coast Guard rescues a woman from the roof of her sinking car. Just watch. Authorities say the woman became stranded on the beach off the coast of England as the tide was coming in. She couldn't swim and was forced to climb to the top of her car to escape the rising seawater. The crew pulling her up onto their lifeboat. She was treated for hypothermia, but otherwise okay. 7 Army soldiers are representing our country in this year's Olympics, kicking off this Friday in South Korea. One of those heroes, Sergeant Matt Mortensen, will compete in luge. Earlier, he told us what he's looking forward to.
This time around, I'm really focused on my competition. I think that my teammate Jason Turdman and I can do very, very well. So I'm just very anxious to get onto the ice and start training.
He joined us in the 4 a.m. hour. Heather Childers there at 4 a.m. Fox and Friends First. Mortensen is part of the World Class Athlete program, allowing him to serve his country as both a soldier and an athlete. And we will be watching and certainly wish him luck, guys.
Well done, indeed. Also, we understand apparently the vice president, when he's over in South Korea, is going to announce massive sanctions against North Korea like you've never seen before.
All right.
I hope so.
We'll be covering it.
There's also talk that they might meet. Meanwhile, turning now to weather, 22 states from Maine to Texas, now on the path of brutal winter weather.
That's in
Ames, Iowa. I used to live there. Icy conditions in Iowa causing a 70-car pileup, at least 1 person dead.
Wow. Senior meteorologist Janice Dean is live with what to expect in the forecast. Janice?
Yeah, it's going to be a messy one, especially across the Ohio, the Tennessee River Valley up towards the northeast. You see the rain, you see that mixture of freezing rain and sleet, and then we've got the snow north of that cold front. So there's the past 12 hours. For New York City, we're going to see a switch over from snow to freezing rain and then all rain. So a lot of folks are going to have some problems on the roadways and in the air. Make sure that you are keeping track of your airline delays. Winter storm advisories for millions of folks here across very busy areas across the northeast. There's your forecast precipitation. Again, in the pink, that's where we're dealing with ice on the roadways, on the bridges. It's going to make for treacherous driving. And, of course, it's going to make for a lot of airline delays and cancellations across the northeast. By this time tomorrow, the storm will be out of here, but certainly a rough commute for millions. Back to you.
It's going to leave a mess. All right.
Yep.
JD, thank you.
You got it.
President Trump getting ready to sign off on releasing the Democrats' rebuttal to the GOP FISA abuse memo. There's about 10 pages long. But are they trying to set a trap for the president? Question mark, exclamation point.
Plus, Amazon, Google, and Facebook are dominating our economy, but our next guest says the tech giants are the robber barons of our time.
Really?
An explanation coming up live from New York City.
The expansion of Amazon, Google, Facebook are having a much bigger effect on the American economy than anyone could have predicted or maybe realized. So are tech giants making us less free and manipulating our thought to a degree? Neil Ferguson is a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute and author of this great book, The Square, the Tower, and he joined The Square, the Tower, and Power, from the Freemasons to Facebook. Thanks so much for joining us, Neil.
Morning, Brian.
First off, these powerful social media, these tech giants, how are they taking some of our freedom away without us knowing it?
Well, this is a great question. Obviously, they're making a lot of stuff cheaper, but they are increasingly monopoly companies. If you just think about it, Google is a monopoly in search. Facebook is essentially a monopoly in social networking. They don't really have competitors because of these very powerful network effects that exist online. Now, from a consumer's vantage point, what's not to like? Amazon clearly makes stuff cheaper, including books, the things that you and I write for a living. Apple makes music cheaper, so consumers aren't complaining. But I think the big issue is the political consequences of companies like Facebook becoming dominant publishers of news and other content. That's the key issue, because these companies have politics too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for example, in music, even Jay-Z said, wait a second, I've lost total control of this to Apple and Google. I'm going to go form my own company. I'll get the best artists. They've been almost totally ineffective. When it comes to social media and news, Facebook is starting to be a clearinghouse for that. Now, in terms of them doing that, congratulations, you're a successful company. However, if you want to manipulate thought and prioritize news stories, you could also do that. And I think sometimes people feel political parties don't understand they're losing sway.
Absolutely, Brian. Nothing has changed politics, not only in the US, but worldwide more than the advent of companies like Facebook. 45% of Americans now get news from Facebook. And we saw just how powerful a tool Facebook advertising is back in the 2016 election. Kudos to Donald Trump and his team. They understood better than Hillary Clinton's lot how to use Facebook advertising. And it was a crucial part of their campaign success. But you know what? I live very near Silicon Valley, and when that result came through November 9th of 2016, you could hear heads exploding all over Silicon Valley. They could not believe that their beautiful network platforms had helped deliver the White House to Donald Trump. And I have heard it said many times, this will never happen again. You have to bear in mind that Mark Zuckerberg, who runs Facebook, has the power to tweak the algorithm that determines what gets into your news feed and my news feed. That is an awesome power. I believe he has more power now in media than even William Randolph Hearst, who we used to think of as the most powerful man in the history of US news. I think Zuckerberg is more powerful now, and we need to watch very closely how he uses that power, because let's face it, Mark Zuckerberg's politics, those are liberal politics. He has no desire to see 2016 happen again, and I don't think Republicans are fully alive to the fact that with really quite small changes to the way that the Facebook algorithm works, their presence in newsfeed could shrink dramatically.
And what you're saying, Neil, is there's a siren going off, and Republicans aren't hearing it, and the midterm elections will have them reach their destination if they don't stop it. Neil Ferguson, thanks so much. You would know. You have a periscope right to that area. And congratulations on your book. Meanwhile, straight ahead. Oh, baby, one couple already has 13 boys. Now they're expecting their 14th child. Will it be another boy? I would do the needle test.
A Michigan couple made headlines nationwide a couple of years ago when they welcomed another baby boy into their family. They have 13 children. They're all boys.
Well, they're expecting again, so will baby number 14 be another boy? For more on that, I go to Ainsley.
Joining us now from Grand Rapids, Michigan, Jay and Kateri Schwant. Thank you both for being with us. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kateri, okay, you have 13 boys already. This is number 14. Don't know if it's a boy or a girl. You have all of these hand-me-downs, so it would be great if it's a boy, because then you don't have to buy new clothes. But are you hoping for a girl?
I don't know. The thought of a girl, you know, just changes everything. So, you know, I'm comfortable with a boy, but whatever we're given.
And why have you not, Jay, yet? Why don't you have the look at the sonogram or try to figure out the sex of the baby before the baby is born? Why don't you want to know?
We always say that'd be like opening your Christmas gifts on Thanksgiving. You know, when the moment comes, we're never truly surprised because, you know, it's been a boy each time. But just the build up and the anticipation and, you know, going through everything with the younger boys, it's just, to us anyway, it's more exciting when the moment comes to have that final surprise.
Kateri, a lot of people watching right now and they're saying, I got 2 kids, I got 3 kids, I can't handle this. How did they do it? Sure. What's the key to the organization to make that house work?
Well, patience, prayer, and time management.
What is it like? I bet it's a lot of fun. Do you have some musicians? You have some that are extremely smart and help the others with homework. What's it like to be a part of a family that big?
And who's your favorite?
It's cool. It really is. It's neat. And you know, from the outside looking in, you know, a lot of people, we get all kinds of comments and things like that, but we enjoy every second of it, especially around the holidays and things like that. Some of the, you know, the older boys are kind of moving on. We have 2 that have been to college. We have 2 that are in college right now. So we have really, there's 10. We have 10 of them living under the roof right now. But it's fun. We have so much fun. Everything we do is centered around family. It doesn't matter if we're going on, you know, on a trip to watch one of the boys play hockey or just a family dinner. We'll get together, you know, whenever we can. So it's everything we do is fun.
Just a family dinner, more like a banquet. Jay and Kateri Schwant, we thank you very much. Good luck to you. And as soon as the baby is born, please let us know. We'd like to pass.
And even if you have a boy, you don't get your girl, you're going to have grandbabies one day, and I guarantee one of